The theoretical basis for an understanding of the learning community as a metaphor for schools and the rationale for the strategies that lead to school characterized by collaboration, shared leadership, and ongoing learning. The evolution of learning community in the research literature is explored, and an in-depth discussion of characteristics and impact of the learning community on students, teachers, and staff is provided. What is learning community? Over the past decades, the research literature on school improvement and school reform has focused on the characteristics of effective schools and the importance of the principal's leadership role and behavior. That is by Lithwood, Seashore Louis, Anderson, and Wallstrom, 2004, Perkins Smith on 1983, and Sir Giovanni, 1992. The metaphor for schools that dominated the literature during this period was the notion of schools as formal organizations. The 1990 publication of Peter Senge's work in the fifth discipline led members of the education community to explore ways of improving how schools operated and the professionalism of teachers and administrators. This is Senge's learning organization. Senge on 1990, whose focus was on corporations rather than schools, argued that if corporations are to survive, they must change themselves into learning organizations that recognize the threats to their survival and the opportunities for their continued growth. Years, the school reform literature reflected a view of schools as communities of learners. That is by Blankstein, Alan, Houston, and Cole on 2008, Hord and Somers on 2008 also, transforming a school into a learning community. However, can pose some significant challenge for educators. Building a learning organization requires organizational members to have access to such resources as time to collaborate, ongoing leadership support, information, and ready access to colleagues. That was Senge on 1994. A lack of meaningful opportunities to engage in learning activities can limit the capacity of schools to become learning organizations. That was by Ingram, Louis, and Schroeder, 2004, and by Lashway on 1997. In our experience, schools typically do not encourage shared thinking. Rather, teachers are generally free to make their own instructional decisions. Defining learning community. The term learning community has taken on a variety of meanings in the literature. In Improving Schools from Within by Roland Brandt in 1990, described a community of learners as a place where students and adults alike are engaged as active learners in matters of special importance to them and where everyone is thereby encouraging everyone else's learning. We also explored the role of teachers and principals as learners and the importance of cooperative and collegial relationships as important aspects of community. In Recreating Schools, Myers and Simpson in 1998 described learning communities as cultural settings in which everyone learns, in which every individual is an integral part, and in which every participant is responsible for both learning and the overall well-being of everyone else. That was on page 2 by Colley and her associates, Colley Dunlap and Lowe and Gagnon on 1998. Noted that not only are individual and collective growth cherished in a learning community, but also the processes for attaining that growth are valued. Speck on 1999, who asserted that shaping a learning community is the most pressing task of the building principle, defined a learning community as follows. A school learning community is one that promotes and values learning as an ongoing, active, collaborative process with dynamic dialogue by teachers, students, staff, principal, parents, and the school community to improve the quality of learning and life within the school. Developing schools where every aspect of the community nourishes learning and helping everyone who comes into contact with the school to contribute to that learning community are important concepts. As defined earlier by Speck, members of a learning community are mutually responsible for building the community. Thus, building a school learning community becomes the collective pursuit of the principal, teachers, students, parents, and all other community members to accomplish their goal. Community members must carry on conversations about the fundamental issues that influence the quality of the available learning opportunities offered to all members of the school community. In a more recent study by Seashore on 2003 and colleagues stated, by using the term professional learning community, we signify our interest not only in discrete acts of teacher sharing, but in the establishment of a school-wide culture that makes collaboration expected, inclusive, genuine, ongoing, and focused on critically examining practice to improve student outcomes. They further noted that with respect to advancing student outcomes and teacher professional learning, how teachers connect with one another outside the walls of their classroom may possibly be as important as their classroom practices and behavior. The model offers an environment in which all teachers come to assume responsibility for the learning of all students. That was by McLaughlin and Talbert on 2006. What are the characteristics of a learning community? A professional community as identified by Cruz, Louis, and Bright in 1995 has its focus the cultivation of learning and interaction among teachers and administrators so as to improve teaching and learning outcomes for students and for the school community at large. As a result of extensive research, they cited 5 elements for professional community. First one is reflective dialogue. Described as those conversations that focus on teaching behaviors and learning outcomes to encourage teachers to discuss their teaching practices and collaborate on how they can be improved. Number 2, focus on student learning. Cruz, Louis, and Bright emphasized that the purpose of all actions in a professional community should be the growth and development of all students. This element is characterized by ongoing conversations and decision-making about curriculum, teaching, and learning that concentrate on student outcomes. Number 3, interaction among teacher colleagues. Professional relationships are developed that encourage teachers to share ideas, learn from one another, and help their colleagues. This element, which is also described as the deprivation of practice, includes behaviors that lead teachers to open their classrooms for observation by other teachers. Number 4, collaboration occurs when teachers share instructional strategies and techniques, make decisions about instructional issues, and come up with ideas that enhance learning for all members of the school community. Number 5, shared values and norms expresses the ideas that the members of the professional community have reached agreement about the mission of their school and the values and norms that are to shape their behaviors as professionals. Louis and Cruz in 1995 also cited 5 structural conditions and 5 human social resources that are essential for establishing professional community. Number 1, excuse me, providing adequate time for teachers to meet and exchange ideas. Number 2, locating teachers physically closely to one another so that they can observe and interact with peers. Number 3, ensuring teacher empowerment and school autonomy so that teachers may feel free to do what they believe to be best for their students. Number 4, creating school-wide communication structures, including regularly established meetings devoted to teaching, learning, and other professional issues. And number 5, employing methods such as team teaching that require teachers to practice their craft together. The human and social resources consist of, number 1, support for teachers who are open to improvement, as demonstrated by a readiness to analyze, reflect on, and try out new approaches to teaching. Number 2, trust in and respect for the abilities of all members of the learning community. Number 3, processes for socializing teachers into the collegial school culture. Number 4, support from those in leadership positions. And number 5, opportunities to acquire new knowledge and skills needed to build a learning community. So this is a table of Cruz, Louis, and Bright in 1995. So this is what I have discussed earlier, the characteristics of a professional community, which has the reflective dialogue, collective focus on student learning. This is not deprivation, this is a clerical error. This is deprivatization of practice, collaboration, shared values and norms. The structural conditions, which I also mentioned earlier, this is the time to meet and discuss, physical proximity, interdependent teaching roles, teacher empowerment, school autonomy, communication structures, and the human and the social resources, openness to improvement, trust and respect, supportive leadership, socialization, cognitive skill base. The role of external agencies. More recently, an exhaustive study by Bolam, McMahon, Stoll, Thomas, and Wallace in 2005 reported that effective learning communities were also characterized by openness to support from and participation in networks and partnerships. In our own work, we have observed that this feature can be an important hallmark of schools that seek to expand their opportunities for continuous learning. For example, a school's effort can be supported and sustained by the external support of the leadership at the district level. We have also observed that strong, well-structured affiliations with higher educational institutions, social service agencies, businesses, and other entities can be powerful sources of support, additional funding, or technical assistance. The challenge of building a collaborative culture. Many challenges are associated with shifting a school from a traditional model to a professional learning community. Culture is enduring, and Peterson in 2002 reminded us, plays a hand in the ways people think and feel and act on page 10. He pointed out that we can see culture's imprint on attitudes towards professional learning and development as well as on the willingness to change. However, the good news in this picture is that researchers and educators have increasingly come to recognize the importance of nurturing what Peterson in 2002 refers to as a healthy school culture characterized by shared values, planned opportunities for collaboration, and continuous learning. Based on the reviews of the literature, Marzano, Waters, and McNulty in 2005 confirmed that an effective culture is the primary tool with which a leader fosters change. And they identify such leadership behaviors as developing a shared vision and supporting teachers' collaborative efforts as contributing to the growth of an effective culture. It should be kept in mind that school leaders are not the only transmitters of cultural norms and expectations. Teachers also play a role as they send signals about a school's culture to the wider community through their interactions with students and parents, by Richardson in 2001. Even more good news is found in recent literature review that presented evidence that the learning community characteristics working in concert with one another fostered a change in the teaching culture of the schools. Under study, it was concluded, culture is improved because the learning communities increase collaboration. A focus on student learning at teacher authority or empowerment and continuous learning by Vesio et al. 2006. As schools work toward developing learning communities, it is important to keep in mind that shared values and norms are the cornerstone on which the community rests and from which the other dimensions will take root, by Cruz et al. On 1995. At the same time, teachers can feel empowered to act on their shared beliefs only if their school and district leadership offer them the autonomy, the opportunity, and the time to meet that they need to decide about improving teaching and learning. So basically, learning community characteristics and school culture focus on this table. We have the chain of teacher empowerment, focus on student learning, increased collaboration, and continuous teacher learning. These factors are chained in a single motive, which is to improve their teaching culture, thus improving the learning of the children. And that's all for my report. And I may pass you to my next companion, which is my wife, which will be reporting further about professional learning community.
Okay, good morning, Doc. This is Nanny Dinopol. Good morning, classmates. So my topic is the continuation of Teacher Joseph topic. about professional learning community. What is the role of the learning community in an age of accountability? Okay, the learning community model provides some answers to this question. It provides a vehicle for teachers to share ideas about standards-based instruction and assessment. When teachers in a learning community collaborate and resolve issues around what content to teach and how best to teach it, they are searching for a common understanding of what effective teaching looks like for all children in their school community. The collegial decisions that make are more likely than traditional approaches are to offer teachers, staff, and all children the opportunity to learn because their collective focus is always on the outcomes of instruction. That is from Little of 1990. Accountability for standards becomes a community issue as teams of teachers work together to accomplish their shared vision. Clearly, schools with learning community characteristics can foster a school culture in which teachers can continuously learn to prepare students to perform to standards. A high-quality learning environment for teachers translates into greater learning opportunities for students. What are the key elements of the school improvement framework for learning community schools? The characteristics of learning community schools are clearly aligned with the strategies used by the schools and districts to foster school improvement. See figure 1.3. This figure is learning community dimensions. Characteristics discussed by teacher Joseph earlier. Reflective dialogue, collective focus on student learning, the privatization of practice, collaboration, shared values and norms. Under the structural conditions are time to meet and discuss, physical proximity, interdependent teaching roles, teacher empowerment or school autonomy, and communication structures. And under the human and social resources are the openness to improvement, trust and respect, supportive leadership, cognitive skill-based socialization. Okay, this one is finished, done with Teacher Joseph. Okay, the key strategies include the following. Leadership development of teachers. Teachers in learning community schools provide leadership by collegially sharing ideas for improving instructions and by opening up their classrooms for all teachers to learn about effective instructional practices. In effect, they become leaders of learning for one another as well as for all of the students in their schools. This leadership role is consistent with the reality of their responsibility for the learning that takes place in their classrooms. Implementation of a standards-based curriculum. Demanding state academic standards that are used to measure student progress in meeting agreed upon benchmarks. Teachers must therefore be prepared to collectively select and use appropriate curriculum, instruction, and assessment strategies to ensure that all students have an opportunity to achieve the standards. Data-driven decision-making. Analyzing data is a powerful and essential strategy for ensuring that all students have an equal opportunity to learn and for meeting the requirements set forth. Teachers in learning community schools improve their classroom practice by collectively analyzing classroom and district-wide assessment data and using the results to plan for instructions. Through these procedures, they learn from one another to make decisions that improve instructional practice. Focus on instructional equity. Another major purpose of the federal legislation is to bring attention to the instructional needs of low-achieving children and to bridge the achievement gap between high and low-performing students. To address these instructional equity issues, it is mandated that assessment data be disaggregated by poverty, race, ethnicity, disability, and limited English proficiency. In the learning community model, teachers are afforded the time and opportunities to meet and to collectively focus on student data. They are uniquely situated to turn a light on the instructional needs of the subgroups and the student population. Collaborative observation. Collaborative observation is a strategy in which colleagues provide support and feedback to one another about the effective use of new instructional practices. That's from Peters and March of 1999. It includes such activities as coaching, peer observation, mentoring, and inter-classroom visitation programs. Many activities that involve some form of collaborative observation are included in the chapters in this book. When collaborative observation becomes an integral aspect of a school's culture, the focus is continuously on the classroom practices that foster student and teacher learning. Action planning. An inherent component of many of the school improvement strategies listed earlier is the action planning process. In learning community schools, action planning is an inherent aspect of all of the aforementioned school improvement strategies. Teachers use their collective voices to plan for sharing ideas and providing feedback to their peers and to examine and improve their teaching and learning practices throughout the school day. They plan to work and learn together to improve student learning. How is student achievement affected by the learning community model? Many learning community characteristics have been embedded with PS 180's culture. Teachers, this is the model, the PS 180. Teachers and leaders work collaboratively to accomplish the learning goals they have established for their students. The school's leaders continually seek ways to provide their teachers with opportunities for learning, for developing leadership skills, and for examining their instructional practice, guided by a distributive leadership model based on the work of James Spillane of 2005. Teachers take on a number of leadership responsibilities, from school-wide leadership to grade level leadership. The teachers weigh in and identify their professional development needs. Plans for professional development in English as a second language and cross-grade planning teams have been developed. Strategies at PS 180 include structured opportunities for teacher collaboration, the analysis of data for program improvement, and an unrelenting focus on academic achievement. Structured opportunities for collaboration. At PS 180, many structured processes are in place that provide for teacher collaboration, community building, and collective learning. Cross-grade planning teams. In collaboration with a local college, cross-grade planning teams meet monthly for cross-grade conversations that advance their understanding of the content of and expectations for the major areas of the curriculum. The focus on this ongoing project is vertical and horizontal curriculum planning in English language arts, social studies, mathematics, and science. Each staff member in the school sits on one of these teams. School-wide leadership team. The state-mandated school leadership team develops school-based educational policies and ensures that resources are aligned to implement those policies. Grade level planning teams. Twice a month, the literacy and math coaches effectively work with teachers at the grade level meetings to ensure curricular alignment at each grade level. Higher education partnership. Another university partnership addresses the improvement of literacy instruction by embedding ongoing professional development activities throughout the school day. Through these structured, ongoing activities and partnerships, teachers build community and expand their knowledge of curriculum and instruction. They are better prepared to assume collective responsibility for the learning of all students in the school community. Data analysis. Data-driven decision-making is another important element in PS 180's school improvement process. Data from state level and classroom assessment are pulled into a database and improvement plans are developed for all students. Achievement profiles for each grade level as well as for the subgroups in the schools are developed and analyzed to advance planning for improved student achievement. Notably, PS 180 has been resourceful in including students in the community building process. Teachers hold conferences with students to discuss student progress and to learn how it can be improved. Students use a password for online access to their achievement data. These activities encourage students to become more involved and assume an active role in their own learning. At the same time, these teacher-student interactions also provide a learning opportunity for the teachers in the form of feedback about their teaching practices. Okay, this is the percent of students achieving academic proficiency at PS 180. This is the result of the model PS 180, mathematics and English language arts. Okay. It shows how the result of PS 180 model. So academic achievement, specifically, how are the school students affected by these activities? In 1999, only 13% of the students achieved the state established proficiency level in math, and 9% achieved the state established proficiency level in English language arts. During McFarlane's tenure as principal, the percentage of students achieving the proficiency level has gradually risen to 81% in mathematics and 56% in literacy. It should be noted that the path to improving learning and teaching at PS 180 has not been without the challenges associated with the school stalled by a history of academic failure. Clearly, the arrival of a visionary principal who focused on leadership development, teacher and student learning, and building community has led us to a steady improvement in student outcomes at the school. So that's all my report. Thank you, Doc. Thank you, classmates, for listening.
Okay, thank you also for
And
that.
now we will proceed to the third reporter.
Before we proceed to the next topic, let us first have discussion of the professional learning community. Now, in a nutshell, how would you define a professional learning community? Anybody? How would you define a professional learning community? Mr. Dinopol,
Uh,
your topic?
yes, professional learning community, Doc, it is the empowerment of all people in the school, from the leadership of the principal and from the administrative level, empowering the leadership of the administrative level, empowering the skills of the teachers to achieve a common goal, which is to improve the academic aspect of all children. So, professional learning community is actually a community of professionals who are willing to learn to achieve their goal of academic excellence.
Okay, so everybody has listened to the report, and I hope you develop, yourselves into a professional learning community when you become a principal or a supervisor. Now remember that it is said that a supervisor is the glue that holds a successful school together. And as a supervisor or principal, you should provide the link between the individual teacher needs and the organizational goals, so that those who are under the professional learning community can work harmoniously toward the attainment of the school's vision. Now, supervision is a professional, continuous, and cooperative process for the improvement of instruction. And a professional learning community is characterized by guidance, assistance, sharing of ideas, facilitation, or creation to help teachers improve learning situation and quality learning. So what is the main aim? To improve teachers' learning situation and to develop quality learning among students. So once you become a principal or a supervisor, you need to possess superior knowledge and skills so that you can work collaboratively in a school environment that nurtures the development of the professional learning community. So there is a clear need to develop connections between instructional supervisor and the professional development and teacher effectiveness. So that is why we have the so-called professional learning community, where teachers work continuously towards the development of quality learning among their students. Okay, is that clear?
Yes, crystal clear, Doc.
Opo,
Okay.
Doc.
Okay po. Okay, so I hope you got many things from the lecture, from the report of Mr. and Mrs. Dinopol. So let us now go to the second report.
My third reporter pa po, Doc.
Meron pa? Okay.
Meron pa po.
Okay. Will be the next reporter.
Sir Chris.
Doc, we have a technical problem with Miss Core's report. Apparently po yung kanya pong internet bandwidth po couldn't support her report po, Doc. So,
Okay. So let us proceed.
Apo, sige po.
Thank you very much, Mr. Christopher.
Salamat din po. Good luck, Group 3.
Good morning po. So we are the group 3 and yun po, permission to screen share po. Ay Ma'am Aliyah po together with Sir MJ, Ma'am Aizal Ann, and Ma'am Emma. Okay. Wait lang po. Please let me know po if my screen is already visible on your screens. Okay na po ba?
Yes, ma'am. Very clear po.
Thank you po. Okay, so good morning once again. I am Ma'am Aliyah Joy B. Ilagan, and of course, this is EDL 261 with the course description supervision in bilingual education. So yeah, and yes, yours truly, Ma'am Aliyah Joy Ilagan. So our topic is all about the duties and responsibilities of instructional supervision along the areas of improvement or of improving teacher effectiveness and professional growth and development. So of course, I would like to introduce to you first our group. So first is yours truly, Ma'am Aliyah. The next one who would be reporting is Sir MJ. And then the third one is Ma'am Emmeline. And then last but not the least is Ma'am Azel Ann. So of course, here are the table of contents or what you are to expect with our presentation for today or our reporting for today. So with me, the assigned one is role or the duties and responsibilities of supervisor as a planner, organizer, and manager. For Sir MJ, his is, of course, being a leader and a guide, evaluator, or appraiser, and helper. With Ma'am Andrega Emmeline, hers is role as a motivator, communicator, and decision maker. And for Ma'am Azel Ann, hers would be the duties and responsibilities of supervisors in the new normal or in these kinds of times in our pandemic days. So yeah, let us begin with the role of supervisor as a planner. So we all know that this has been already been discussed last time, but we will be substantiating it today or by now. So as a planner, supervisor as a planner, one of the most important roles for the instructional supervisor because this involves the ability to determine in advance what should be done and how it is to be accomplished. So of course, the first thing that comes in our mind is the planner, as in the notebook that we use yearly, so that we could plot our plans every time we have an agenda, meetings, and most especially our things to do. But of course, we also have here the planner as a person, more so as a supervisor. He or she must know what are the things that need to be accomplished and how to do it. And it is really important that he or she is also conscious of the time. Okay, so what do we mean by that? So the detail should be complete, especially if it is urgent. He or she must be particular also with the deadline. So of course, every time there is a report to be submitted, we all know that especially in DepEd, there are so many reports or forms to be submitted. So the due date should be known to avoid any delays. A supervisor must be a goal driven. So of course, as a planner, you know already what your desired goal is. And he or she should bear in mind that the goal is to finish any task with a bang, meaning it should be successful. And of course, with the help of his or her teachers. So it is really important for the supervisors for them to have this kind of trait, which is, of course, being a good planner. And as a good planner, you also have to have this schedule. Like, for example, with every phases, there it should be a task to be given. And in, for example, in every corresponding weeks of your month, so week 1, what should be done, week 2, week 3, week 4, and of course, and so on and so forth. So it is really a thing, especially we all know that right now there are so many things to be accomplished, so many things to be done. So this is really a must, especially that there are a lot of things to be submitted in the division office and in the other departments as well. So yeah. So as a planner, here are the duties and responsibilities. So a supervisor must plan the daily work schedules at school, and at the same time, he or she should divide the work to various teachers according to their abilities. So what do we mean by this? Daily work schedules must be known to the teachers so that they would know their roles and they won't be confused with the things which must be done in a day-to-day basis. It is really hard if there are no assigned teachers in every particular task or in each particular task. Like, for example, even the simplest ones, in charge of the log books or in charge of the bulletin boards or in charge of the cleanliness and orderliness of the school. For example, every time there is a brigada eskwela who are the teachers who are assigned for the specific days or for the specific week. So just like that po. And then according to their abilities, because it is really hard to assign teachers if it's not their forte. What do we mean by that? Like, for example, so in the previous campaign, especially you know this if you're from the DepEd po, from the public school, the EVAW po, the EVAW, which is the anti-violence against women. So it's just like a campaign wherein different schools would make a skit about it. So there is a need to act, to edit, or at least to conceptualize the ideas in order to, of course, have a representation. So as a supervisor, you yourself should not assign the teachers who are the shy type ones or who are not in line with that particular editing or whatsoever about that skit. So since they will just be hesitant to join, and at the same time, that is the reason why it is important that you know them personally alongside with being a planner. You must also build a good relationship and good rapport amongst your teachers and colleagues. So it is really important that you would also treat them like your own family members, because through that you could be able to work harmoniously. You could be able to make the things much easier if you are not that aloof with each other or you are comfortable with each other. So it really is a thing, especially just like even if we are into social distancing right now. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you are to distance yourself from them, but more you have to follow the safety protocols, and at the same time you would still communicate. So it is important to really communicate amongst the members or the teachers within your school or even within the whole community. So of course, the next one, we are now proceeding to the next one. The second is being an organizer. So yeah, the first thing that comes to our mind is just like planner and organizer. This two somehow intertwined with each other, right? But let us see their difference. So supervisor as an organizer. So the supervisor's basic role is to plan the daily work schedule of the teachers. Take note of the word to plan with the supervisor as an organizer by guiding them the nature of their work and dividing the work amongst the teachers according to their interests, aptitudes, and skills. So we all know that these three, the highlighted ones, these three were already been discussed before, right? So we all know that a planner is also an organizer. In order for you to become a good planner, you must be a good organizer. So organizing your plans means that you know what outcome to expect, whether it be good or bad. It's all right as long as you try your best and you give your all. But of course, we will always be rooting for the best. That's why it is really important as teachers or as a supervisor, you must be flexible enough for you to have not only plans A and B, but plans A to Z. So it is really a thing, especially with these kinds of times that we are already in this technology, we're already communicating through Zooms, through online meetings, or through virtual interaction. So it really is a thing for us to always hold our netiquette, not only etiquette, but also net etiquette, meaning our etiquette when it comes to the internet. So yeah, it's a combined word. So according to their interests, as we say in here, and as well as the aptitude. So when we say aptitudes, this is referring to the natural ability to do something, our aptitude. So I could still recall I have discussed this also with my previous report in our previous subject last time. So yeah, and skills, since just as the same as our students, our teachers have their own peculiarities or differences. We must identify them through connecting with them. Being organized doesn't mean that you will only organize the external matters, but at the same time, with the internal matters to create an environment conducive for learning and growing. So before organizing the school works and loads, you must organize first your members and everything will follow. So it is really a thing po for you to be a planner and organizer at the same time. So I would be sharing to you po yung aking timeline. So this is my own version as to how I proceeded with me being a teacher. So with me, I have my day one, subject orientation, and then day two, discussion of the chapter one, and then of course my favorite day three would be the quiz bee activity in order for me to know if my students really understood my discussion about chapter one. And then the next day, day four, would be their quiz, so just like a summative test, if they still recall our quiz bee questions, or if they could still bear in mind what our topic was all about with the last day. So, yun po, it's really important for you to have a timeline and you plan it and organize it well. So, yes, another thing about organizer, we have here duties and responsibilities. So, the ability to organize is another role that is crucial if the instructional supervisor is to be successful. Just like what I've said earlier, it may be there would just be two results. It could be good or bad, successful or not. So whether the duties of supervisor involve class scheduling or obtaining the necessary curricular materials, including the textbooks, the ability to organize is essential or vital. So when we say crucial, it means that it is very serious, something that must be taken a lot of consideration. So we as teachers, we are really crucial when it comes to different details about our reports, about the things that needs to be done. So even the small details matter. So just like in any trait as well, even the simplest good things matter. So yun po. And then we are now on the third one, which is the last part of my report already. Role of a supervisor as a manager or as a manager. Kidding aside. Okay. So yeah, supervisor as a manager. It is right to say that a supervisor is part of the management team of a school. In fact, he or she is known as the operative manager. So when we say operative manager, he or she oversees all the activities within a specific development or department of area of an organization. And at the same time, he or she keeps track of the KPI or the key performances indicators. They have to be compassionate and approachable. There needs to be a relationship of respect and trust between the supervisor and of course between his or her staff. A supervisor must possess the ability to troubleshoot problems and manage the time pressures calmly. So meaning you are just like a beauty queen. You are every time you are, for example, in a question and answer portion, you manage your time pressures calmly, meaning it's just like you are confident enough with what is happening. And even if there are so many tasks to do, you are still in your composure moment or in your composure aura, just like that. So that your other teachers will not also rattle. So you are a operative manager. Okay, supervisors create and oversee their teamwork's workflow or the task required to complete a job. And at the same time, he or she must define goals, communicate objectives, and monitor the team performance. So monitor them if they're doing their job. And building a relationship doesn't mean that you will be too comfortable with each other. There should always be a wall between you and your teachers, and always make sure that you maintain professionalism. So it is really a thing, right? So I mentioned earlier that you should treat them as a family, but of course, as to your relationship, there should always be a wall between you and your teachers, because we all know that if your teachers would be too comfortable with you, there are times when they would not be that respectful, or sometimes they would bear in mind that si Doc, ganyan naman yan, hindi naman siya yung sobrang sungit, so okay lang na mali. So it is really a no-no. So of course, there should always be a wall between you and your colleagues, or your teachers, or the ones you are heading, supervising. Okay, so of course, manager as your duties and responsibilities. So I am now in this conclusion part. So I therefore conclude that supervisors lead teachers or other teachers in instruction to make them as effective as possible. Not just as effective, but as efficient as possible. We all know that between being efficient and being effective, being efficient is just like more, or it's just like better than being effective. So they also lead teachers in developing and implementing an effective plan of instruction. At the third one, supervisors must adapt, okay, take note of the word adapt, to meet the needs of the people and environment rather than practice a normative kind of leadership. They must develop solutions for each individual problem as it arises rather than use prefabricated answers for any problem. Supervisors actively participate in the school's instructional program. So when we say, of course, I highlighted the word adapt. So adapting means that you are always open for new learnings because you are a supervisor. You must possess extraordinary skills, and you must always be involved in all the programs in your school, so that you would know what to plan, what to organize, and what to manage, and how to do it effectively. And by that, I end my report. So thank you so much everyone for listening. So if you have any questions, so yeah, you can email me at ilagan@yale.edu.info. So thank you so much po. So that's the end of my report. And the next one who would be reporting, if you have no questions so far, is Mr. MJ. Thank you so much. I would stop screen sharing now. Thank you po.
Okay, permission to share my screen for. Visible na po ba yung screen ko? Classmate.
Yes po, sir.
Okay po, wait lang po. Wait lang po. Okay, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Doc. Good morning, classmates. So, before I proceed with my discussion this morning, let me introduce myself first. I am Mark Joseph Digumatay, 23 years old. I am a graduate of Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in Agriculture and Fishery Arts, and I am currently working as a junior high school English teacher here in Thailand. Nag-move po ba yung slides ko? Wait lang po. Nag-move po ba?
Yes po, sir.
Thank you po. So everybody, so the topic to be discussed by our group today is all about the duties and responsibilities of instructional supervision along the areas of improving teachers' effectiveness toward and professional growth and development. So what we are going to discuss for you today is all about the rules, duties, and responsibilities of instructional supervisor, of the supervisor, since they are the main character that is responsible for instructional supervision. So, as the continuation of my report, I'm going to discuss to you three main roles of a supervisor. So, just a minute. I'm so sorry for some technicalities. Naglalag lang po talaga yung laptop. Lang po. Okay, everybody. So supervisor as a leader and a guide. So first, let's discuss its duties and responsibilities. So being a leader and a guide is one of the important role of a supervisor in instructional supervision. Supervisor is responsible in persuading teachers to modify their lesson plans and change their teaching behavior to accommodate individual differences of the students. So everybody, in addition to that, persuading teachers to adapt new curriculum, instructional program, and instructional models is often part of a supervisor's role. So it is also a duty of the supervisor as a leader to manage operation and the administration of the organization they were committed. So when we are talking about operation, we're talking about the processes and all the procedures happening inside the school or the institution and inside the teaching and learning environment of their subordinate. So when we're talking about this, their subordinate, we're talking about the teachers. So when we say administration, we are talking about other staff under your supervision as a supervisor, because aside from those teaching personnel, supervisor also supervise and monitor the work of the counselor, librarians, health personnel, secretaries, custodians, and other staff who work in and around the school. This work requires as much as diplomacy, sensitivity, and humanity as the supervision of teachers. Because in their everyday contact with the students, all of these support personnel may teach multiple important lessons about integrity of various kinds of work, about civility and etiquette, and about basic social behavior. Also, everyone, supervisor lead and motivate their team, guide and manage performance of their subordinates. That's why we have this instructional supervision for our leaders to evaluate, help, and guide us in improving our performance inside our teaching and learning environment. Also, supervisor tends to solve problems. Excuse me. Tends to solve problems that the school or the institution is facing. So as a leader, as what Dr. Ching said last Saturday, supervisor or leaders must take their responsibilities seriously, especially in every action that they make. That's why as a leader, you must be wise and be considerate in decision making. Most importantly, as a head of your team, you have to take care for the safety and the welfare of your people. When we say your people, we're talking about the teacher, the students, staff, administrators, and your stakeholders under your supervision. See, being a leader and being a guide has a great responsibility, because the higher the position you have, the greater the responsibilities you have also. So moving forward, let's discuss the roles of supervisor as a leader and a guide in improving teachers' effectiveness and professional growth and development. So as a leader, you will come to realize that you will be required to take multiple roles within your team to create a value across the board of your stakeholders, your teachers, your students, and even your administrators. These roles are meant to influence, mediate, and inspire your people and your working environment. But remember, some kind of approach and one go-to style is not going to work in every situation. So here are some of the leadership roles that leaders play for an effective administration and how it affects us to be effective and helps our professional growth and development as a teacher or a subordinate. So first, we have the visionary. A good leader clearly defines where their team is going and how they are going to get there. That's why as a leader, you must set a SMART goal: specific, measurable, achievable or attainable, relevant, and time-bounded goals. Effective leaders see that where they are today is not where they need to be tomorrow. So dito na pumapasok yung, dito dapat hindi tayo makontento kung anong meron tayo. It's not bad to be greedy when we are in this kind of state, di ba? Parehas lang yun sa ulam. Kung ulam mo ngayon adobo tapos bukas adobo ulit, di ba nakakasawa? Dapat hindi tayo makontento. Let's have this growth and development for our own self. So in these roles, leaders create a shared vision and communicate it so powerfully that others join them on the journey. So a visionary leader is someone who is innovative and is able to leverage on ideas and concepts from his or her team and merge them into a concrete plan. So to be a visionary leader, you need to learn to look at your business or at your plan, at your goals from an outside perspective. Be innovative, and most importantly, work as a team with your people. So that's all about the visionary type of a leader. Next, we have the strategist. Being strategist is one of the example of leadership roles that leaders take. Strategic leaders consistently achieve results with and through others using disciplined and carefully planned processes. Effective leaders translate vision into results by focusing on the most important priorities and creating systems that empower people. In this role, leaders create an environment where people can work together and win. So a strategist is able to delegate well and understand what everyone's strengths are. So if you want to be a strategic leader, create a platform for you and also for your team to test new ideas and concepts openly. So dito, being a strategic leader, you need to take risks. Sabi nga ni Ma'am Aliyah, we need to adapt. Don't be afraid to try new things so that we can adapt with the fast-growing generation that we have today. So be transparent and be ready for a transformation when it is required, which means stop resisting change and adapt yourself to technologies and trends that is fit for your instruction. So that is about the strategist type of leader. And the last one I have here, the talent advocator. A supervisor being a talent or an advocator. So our leader unleashes the ability of each person on their team to improve performance, solve problems, and grow their career. Leadership responsibilities include seeing others as a whole people with a body, with a mind, with a heart and spirit. So in this role, leader move from telling and fixing to coaching, building capabilities and leadership in others. So in the past, command and control used to work, but not today. Empathy, support, and guidance rather than instruction is a better approach these days to inspire innovation and commitment from your people. So be more of a coach, teach what you have learned, listen to their feedback and concern, address problems quickly, and be available where required. See? Our supervisor is a great help for us. Different roles has different impacts to our effectiveness and growth and development as a professional. So moving forward, it is important for the leaders to act to provide support and development opportunities for their subordinates, promoting trainings and development events for specific activities. Leaders should encourage a critical and reflective vision in their respective work teams with a deliberately planned direction. Also, as a leader, we need to promote and encourage professional development of our subordinates in a consistent and individual way without stifling their initiative and the ability of each one to self-engineer his or her own career. So as a supervisor, yeah, it's our responsibilities to help our subordinates. Pero not to the extent na i-spoon feed na lang natin, oh, ikaw gusto mo ng ganito, oh, bigay ka na lang bigay. No, hindi tayo ganyan. We need also to impose the initiative from our subordinates and their ability to self-engineer his or her own career. Nandito lang naman tayo to support them, to encourage them, to inspire them, not to the extent na, oh, tayo na talaga, ito gusto ko, ilagay siya dito. No, we need their initiative. Kasi pag nakita mo, oh, may initiative siya, so it means nandun yung willingness niya, nandun yung eagerness niya to grow, to develop as a professional. Okay po ba? Next, supervisor as an evaluator or appraiser. So before I proceed to this role, let me conclude the first role that I have discussed, supervisor as a leader and a guide. So we can conclude the professional development of subordinates is directly connected with the leadership style, because this development is understood as the growth and maturation of knowledge, skills, and attitudes acquired throughout our workers' lives as a result of learning at work actions. So, and learning at work action depends on leadership's decision. As a leader, you must build a strong foundation of trust and respect towards the people under your supervision. As what Dr. Ching said last Saturday, last Saturday, that being a leader, you must build a concrete foundation of trust and respect towards your people to be an effective leader. So moving to the second role that I'm going to discuss, we have supervisor as a leader, as an evaluator or appraiser. Okay, let's discuss first its duties and responsibilities. So the supervisor and the teacher both play an important role in creating a productive performance appraisal process. The ability of the supervisor to appraise the instructional act is a prerequisite for the improvement of teaching and learning process. Performance management is a year-long responsibility, and supervisors are encouraged to meet quarterly with their subordinates for what? To review goals and their progress. Again, encouraged to meet quarterly with their subordinates to review goals and their progress. Next, these are some of the duties and responsibilities of supervisor as an evaluator or appraiser. So this is specific to any performance appraiser cycle. So supervisor first must review the teaching position, the teacher's position description to ensure it is current and accurate, as it is basis by which performance should be evaluated. So as an evaluator or as a supervisor, you need to review the teacher's position description para malaman mo na, tama ba yung area na ina-assess ko? Kasi mamaya hindi pala, di ba? So hindi sila match. So you need to review their teacher's position description. Next is you need to write a draft appraisal to share and discuss with the teacher. Next is meet individually and in person with the teacher to review their performance, future goals, including professional development and diversity, equity, and inclusions goal. And last one, you have to finalize performance appraisal in a performance due date. Bakit may due date? Kaya nga, di ba? You need to be time-bounded. You need to be time conscious. Kung submission na, you need to submit it as a supervisor. Because being a good leader, you need to be a good follower first. So next. So the best way our supervisor can help us in our professional growth and development as a teacher is through the value of communication, coaching, and training development on our motivation. So here are some of the roles of a supervisor as an evaluator or appraiser in improving teachers' effectiveness and professional growth and development. So appraisals and career development program benefit you, so us and our school, because they provide an opportunity. First, review your progress to date, including your achievements and ongoing challenges. Next, offers constructive feedback on our performance. Next, agree performance objective for the following year. After that, discuss, or we can discuss our aspiration and identify how they may align with the school objectives. Next is to look at the future potential and promotion. Next, we can identify the gaps in skills and training needs. And last one, discuss your personal development plan or career. So tayo as a teacher, huwag na tayong mag-complain if our supervisor will evaluate us. Kasi you see, it can benefit us in many ways. See, I have here seven benefits that we can gain from our supervisor if we have this instructional supervision inside our classroom. So the best way our supervisor can help us, to be successful as an appraisal, commitment from both of you and your appraiser, and in an environment where thoughts and views can be openly expressed. Appraiser undergo trainings to perform this role effectively. So it is important for us to prepare well, to make the most of the process. So for us as a teacher, wag tayong matakot sa ating mga supervisor or mga evaluator kasi nga as what I have said, it can help us in many ways to develop, for us to be an effective teacher and help us to in our professional and growth development. Don't be afraid because it's your comfort zone, it's your safe zone with your principal or with your supervisor. So the next one, the last role that I'm going to discuss to you today is supervisor as a helper. So let's discuss its duties and responsibilities first. So the supervisor is charged with the responsibility of helping others. The role of a helper ranges from providing direct assistance by listening to the teachers as they think through their instructional sequence. So the primary objective for the supervisor is to help teachers develop their instructional skills. Again, the primary objective for the supervisor is to help teachers develop their instructional skill. So these are some of the roles of a supervisor as a helper in improving teachers' effectiveness and professional growth and development. So as an effective supervisor, makes your job easier by providing clear guidance, relevant training opportunities, and career development advice that coordinates with your career goals. So the best way our supervisor can help us in our professional growth and development as a teacher is through the value of communication, coaching, mentoring, motivation development, and also training. So when we provide feedback to our supervisor, they can tailor their approach and help us work more effectively and efficiently. This is where the word selflessness brought in. As what Dr. Ching said also last Saturday, that as a supervisor, you need to be selfless for the sake of your people. Diba? Dito, it also says, highlighted here, communication. So the more information that we provide to our supervisor when they evaluate us, the more they can know us. Diba? Kung mas kilalanin tayo, ito yung problema niya. So dapat ganito yung i-advise ko sa kanya, ganito yung dapat sabihin ko sa kanya for us to grow and to develop. So furthermore, roles of a supervisor as a helper. I want to highlight here that communication, as what I have said, communication engages supervisor and their subordinates. Coaching builds subordinates. And also development fosters growth. And the last one, initiatives drives growth. Initiative is very important also for us as a teachers. So supervisors are entrusted with the responsibilities of training and motivating subordinates. Great supervisors inspire workers to exceed goals and make a vital contribution to the institution. A supervisor is evaluated by their ability to motivate their subordinates to achieve and exceed institutional goals. So the best supervisor realize that they achieve by empowering others to excel. So when a subordinate gets ahead in the institution, the supervisor should be congratulated for a job well done. Being selfless. Okay? Huwag tayong maging selfish as a supervisor because it's not part of their role to be selfish. We need to be selfless. Okay? Iwan na natin yung mentality ng mga Pilipino na crab mentality. No, it doesn't apply for being a supervisor. So supervisor's role in improving teachers' effectiveness and professional growth and development. So supervisor usually wear 2 or 3 other hats, but their specific responsibilities tends to include some or all of the following. So here, I'm going to show you. First, mentoring or providing for mentoring of beginning teacher to facilitate a supportive induction into the profession. Number 2, bringing individuals teachers up to minimum standards of effective teaching. When we say effective teaching, we're talking about the quality assurance and maintenance function of the supervision. Next is improving individuals' teachers' competencies, no matter how proficient they are deemed to be. Working with groups of teachers in a collaborative effort to improve student learning. We need to discuss with our subordinates also. So number 5, working with groups of teachers to adapt the local curriculum to the needs and abilities of diverse groups of students, while at the same time bringing the local curriculum in line with state and national standard. And the last one, relating teachers' efforts to improve their teaching to the larger goals of school-wide improvement in the service of quality learning for all the children. So these responsibilities can only be done and achieved by the teachers, and with the great cooperation of the teachers. Oh no, again, I'm going to repeat it. These responsibilities can only be done and achieved by the supervisors with the great cooperation of the teacher. So the role of the supervisor is very important for us, for our personal growth and development as a professional, and for the effectiveness and harmonious relationship inside and out of our institution. So that concludes my report for today. So these are the following references that I used in making this report. So thank you everyone for listening. Sawadee krap. So I'm gonna give the floor for Mom Emily and Tika for the continuation of our report. Thank you everyone.
Thank you, Sir MJ. Good morning, Doc. Good morning, classmates. So, hi, Ma'am Aliyah.
Ma'am, I'm on it. Wait lang po.
Thank you po.
Congratulations, Sir MJ. Hingang malalim.
Thank you po.
So good morning, Doc. Again, good morning, classmates. So before I continue the discussion about the duties and responsibilities of instructional supervision, let me introduce first myself. My name is Miss Emeline Endriga from Cotabato, Quezon, secondary Filipino teacher. So next po, ma'am. Thank you po. So today I will discuss the continuation, the three duties and responsibilities of instructional supervision along the areas of improving teacher effectiveness and professional growth and development. So next po. So pahapiwan ko lang po dito ng konti ang definition ng instructional supervision. So according to C.U. Giovanni, 1975, instructional supervision helping the teaching to grow professionally while on job. It is a service to help teachers to become more skilled in the process of fostering children's learning. So the role of supervisor is to guide and help the teachers to become more efficient and effective. A process of facilitating the professional growth and a teacher by primarily giving the feedback about the classroom interactions and helping the teachers make use of the feedback in order to make teaching more effective. A process designed to improve instruction by conferring with the teachers on their lesson planning, observing their lesson, analyzing the observational data, and also giving the teacher feedback about the observation. So dapat as a teacher, dapat ay o kailangan alam natin ang lahat ng ito. Ano ba yung tamang supervision para maging successful tayo in terms of our cooperation with our teachers and students. Next po, ma'am. Thank you po. So, sino-sino ba yung nagsusupervise ng education? So, dahil nasa supervision and education na tayo, so pahapiwan ko lang tong mga nagsusupervise in education. So, we have here superintendent, district supervisor, principals, assistant, so principals, department heads, master teachers, and teachers. So, those are the different level of supervision depende sa rank o level in the Department of Education. So next po, ma'am. So what is the role of supervision in an educational setup? So classmates, let us answer the question through this 4 picks 1 word game. So ano po kayang sagot dito? What is the role of supervisor in an educational setup?
Lead.
Yes po?
Lead po.
Yes, sir?
To lead. To lead po.
Next po?
Ma'am, to lead daw po. Sabi daw po ni Ma'am ni Sir MJ. To lead.
Okay. Okay po, to lead. Ma'am Aliyah, paisa pa. Yan. It consists of 6 letters.
Leader.
To direct.
Direct. Okay, so the big role of the supervisor of, yes po, thank you Ma'am Loida. Leader po, what is the role of supervision in setup is to be a leader. The big role of the supervisor at all times is being a leader. So leader should be, next po ma'am, should be motivator, communicator, and also decision maker. So let's start with the decision maker. According to According to Hasibuan 2012, motivation is the driving force provision that creates the excitement of one's work, so they want to cooperate to work effectively and integrated with all its resources to achieve satisfaction. So motivations reflect something unique about each of one of us and allow us to gain valued outcomes like improve performance, enhance well-being, personal growth, or in a sense of purpose. So motivation is a pathway to change our way of thinking, feeling, and behaving. Also, it gives us the sense the motivation involves processes providing energy, directing, and maintaining behavior or attitude. Kumbaga, tayo as a teacher, mas ginaganahan tayong magtrabaho pag motivated tayo ng ating supervisor. So kumbaga nagpupursige tayong tapusin ang gawain na ibinigay sa atin. So kasi tayo as a teacher kapag motivated, may directions yung ating ginagawa. Kumbaga minsan, hindi na natin nararamdaman yung pagod doon sa ginagawa natin kapag motivated tayo by our supervisor. Next po, ma'am. So what are the duties and responsibilities as motivator? First, we have a make yourselves available. So the role as a school administrator is to make your teachers' lives easier so that they can teach and their student can learn. So dito sa duties and responsibilities na to, dapat ay gumagawa ng paraan si supervisor paano ba mapapadali ang gawain ng mga teachers para makapag-focus lang sila sa pagkatuto ng mga bata. So it is very important din na kahit paano inaalam ng mga supervisor natin ano na ba yung sitwasyon natin, yung simpleng kumustahin nila tayo doon sa ginagawa natin, especially this time of pandemic, malaking bagay yun sa atin. And of course, mas na-motivate tayo kapag yung ating supervisor ay may time na nag-o-offer sa atin na ano ba yung may itulong nila sa atin as a teacher. So on that way, mas mamomotivate tayong gumawa. So for example, share ko lang po dun sa school namin, dahil pinag-uusapan natin itong motivation as a supervisor as motivator. Dun sa school namin, before kasi, ngayon nagkaroon ng rotations ang school heads. So this school year talagang binawasan na nung school head namin, ang aming mga gawain, especially pagdating sa printing, kasi dati lahat nasa amin yung ganung gawain. So ngayon, tinanggal na ng bagong school head namin kasi pinag-focus na lang niya kami dun sa mga strategies na pwede naming i-apply para matuto yung mga estudyante. Kasi alam naman nating lahat bilang teacher kung gaano kahirap ngayon na i-guide o kung paano matututo ang mga bata. So second, we have praise teacher. So hindi po kasama yung publicly praise teacher. So praise teacher kung kailangan as a supervisor kasi sa isang school nararamdaman ni teacher na pinapahalagahan mo sila because you won't need to worry about motivating them, and teachers know how well stay motivated kung nararamdaman nila na ina-acknowledge mo yung maliliit na achievements nila when it comes to school. Kumbaga, isa ito sa mga paraan para ma-motivate yung mga guro at pagbutihin pa yung kanilang trabaho sa mga susunod. So kasi pag nararamdaman na ng teacher na pinapahalagahan sila, maaari kasing maraming paraan kasi ng pagpaparamdam ng supervisor sa kanilang teacher para ma-motivate si teacher. Yung simpleng i-acknowledge mo sila during the flag ceremony, doon sa mga achievements nila, pagbibigay ng certificate. So doon in that way, mas na-motivate talaga tayo kahit na maliit man o malaki yung achievements natin na nagawa natin. So next we have encourage teacher to seek out professional development and opportunities. So as a supervisor, dapat andun yung pag-push natin sa mga teacher natin na mag-grow in their profession. Kumbaga, tulad sa amin, for example, dun sa amin, sa school namin, nagkakaroon kami ng mga lock sessions ng inset katatapos lang. So instead na kumuha yung yung school head namin ng speaker or magto-talk mula sa ibang school o mula sa ibang lugar, so kami na yung nagiging speaker. So kami na yung nagiging speaker na sa pamamagitan nito, kumbaga mas na-i-enhance namin yung aming communications skill through this activities. Then, and of course, syempre as a supervisor, share ko nga lang din, doon sa amin talagang medyo ang target kasi nung school head namin doon ay ma-promote kami kung sakali na mai-implement yung Teacher 7. Kaya this school year, halos lahat ng teachers doon sa amin nagtitake ng masters kasi yun yung pinaghahandaan nung school head namin. Kumbaga, as a school head, dapat palagi kang nandyan to encourage your teacher for their professional development. Then we have provide opportunities to take breaks. So ito given naman to ngayon So meron naman tayong kumbaga yung alternative work arrangement ng teacher, kumbaga may break kahit napakaraming gawain, nandun yung breaks natin, yung break natin para sa ibang bagay kasi meron tayong physical reporting in school, then merong schedule ng work from home. So next po. So next we have empower each teacher's strength. So as a supervisor, dapat sinusuportahan natin o sinusuportahan ang iba't ibang teaching strategies na ginagamit ng teachers, lalo na kung ito yung magiging paraan lang para matuto ang bata. Minsan kasi may mga supervisor, may mga school heads na kumbaga kung ano lang yung nandun sa module, yun lang yung gusto nilang gagawin mo, yun lang yung gusto nilang strategy na i-apply mo dun sa bata. So as a supervisor, dapat iniiwasan natin yung ganung style kasi kailangan suportahan ang mga guru natin to improve or to enhance their strength in teaching styles. Next, we have recognize key stress times. So dito, don't overload teachers with professional development during report card season. So avoid new initiative and stresses during the end of the term, report writing periods, or while teachers are marking exam. This causes teachers' motivation to slowly fade. And if there any way you can lend a hand during these times, make sure to do so. So ito, dun sa as a supervisor, sa mga supervisor, dapat iniiwasan natin na minsan ini-insist natin sa mga teachers natin yung mga bagay na hindi naman ganun ka urgent. Kumbaga yung wala sa timing, yung at the end of the quarter, alam natin na sa teacher marami tayong ginagawa dyan, nandyan yung nagkukompute tayo ng grades, gumagawa tayo ng MPS, tapos minsan may mga supervisor na na may isisingit or may additional na activity na gawain na ibibigay sa'yo. So, as a supervisor, kumbaga, aalamin mo din, ano ba yung sitwasyon ni teacher. So, kung alam mo namang hindi ganun ka-urgent yung ipapagawa mo, so pwede namang sa ibang araw na lang. Next, we have encourage collaboration. So having your teachers work together can significantly impact their motivation. More experienced teachers will be recognized for their best teaching strategies. Kasi supervisor as motivator and through collaboration kasi maaaring malaking bagay na makapag-share si teacher ano ba yung learning strategies o teaching strategies na ginagamit niya during their class discussion na maaaring ma-adapt ng iba niyang teacher. So through collaboration, nagkakaroon ng sharing ang lahat ng teachers. And syempre, malaking bagay sa teachers na knowledge nga ni school head yung simpleng bagay na kanyang nagagawa. So next po. So the second one, we have here communicator. The ability to transfer information, ideas, or feelings with school setting is an important supervisory role. Supervisor must be a good communicator. Their ability to work with others effectively depends on their ability to work with others to communicate. So as a supervisor, communicator must be a good communicator because communication is not easy word or process to define. Hindi rin ito isang madaling kasanayan na nakakabisado natin o na ma-master natin. Ano po? Kumbaga, ito'y isang mahalagang bahagi ng bawat organisations na kailangan as a supervisor, you are very good in communications. Ano po? So effective communications techniques are essential in every job. For example, managing, supervising, training, teaching, negotiating, selling, and coaching are critically influenced by communications. So here are the duties and responsibilities as a communicator. Number one, we have prepared and organized. Prepared and organized. So, as a supervisor, part of being prepared is being organized. Katulad nga nung sinabi kanina ni Ma'am Aliyah, when it comes to communications, dapat ang mga supervisors is palaging prepared dahil alam naman natin na sa kanila lahat nagmumula, ang lahat ng information na nagmumula sa taas sa division na kailangang i-disseminate nila sa teachers para may implement ng maayos sa school. Mahalaga rin yung pagiging prepared kung paano mo siya. Siyempre mahalaga din kung paano mo siya i-disseminate yung informations mo sa teachers. So dapat palaging organized kasi may maraming instances na dahil hindi ka nga ganun ka-prepared o hindi ka nga ganun ka-organized, nagkakaroon ng miscommunications. So be clear. If your message is unclear, the audience will lose interest and tune you out, bringing an end to an effective communications. So you need to have a clear idea in your mind of what you want to say before you can say it clearly to someone else. So sabi nga, kahit gaano kahalaga yung isang mensahe, na isinulat mo ito sa hindi magandang penmanship o sulat kamay o isinulat mo ito sa isang dark na papel o maabong papel, kahit gaano kalaga yung mensahe mo, kahit gaano ka-importante, kahit gaano kahusay, hindi siya magiging epektibo. So kumbaga hindi magiging malinaw. Ano po? So pagdating naman sa oral communications, kung kahit gaano ka kagaling na speaker, kahit gaano ka kagaling na mag-talk sa isang, kunwari sa isang training, sa isang seminar, kung yung paraan mo naman ng pagsasalita ay pabulong, mabilis, yung intonation ng boses hindi rin maayos, so hindi ka rin magiging effective communicator. So as a supervisor, mahalaga na palaging clear ang informations na ibinibigay sa school, especially the instructions. Next, we have a concise and punctual. So being concise, also being sensitive to time constraints. Be the point and concise your choice of words. Yung minsan may mga supervisor kasi na ang dami-daming gustong sabihin, pero hindi na malaman kung ano ba talaga yung gustong sabihin dun sa kanyang teacher. Kaya pati si teacher minsan nalilito na rin alin ba yung dapat gawin, alin ba yung dapat unahin. So as a supervisor, as a communicator, dapat palaging concise yung information and syempre dapat punctual. So minsan kasi dahil late yung pagdi-disseminate mo ng informations, minsan may mga teacher nagtataka, bakit dun sa ibang school ganito na yung ginagawa, pero dahil ikaw nga na supervisor dun sa school nyo, medyo na-late yung informations mo, hindi nakakasabay si teachers. Kaya as a communicator, be concise and be punctual. That's very important. Next, we have a trustworthy. Trust is a key component in communication. Your goal as communicator is to build a healthy relationship with your audience, especially with your teachers. And to do that, you must show what they can trust you, and the information you are about to give them is believable. So as a supervisor, ang informations na ibibigay sa teacher palagi ay tama. Lalo na pagdating sa mga guidelines, pagdating sa mga guidelines ng paggawa ng forms, minsan dahil nga hindi maayos yung pagbibigay mo ng information, ng instruction, minsan may mga forms na mali yung pagkakagawa ni teacher, o may mga papers na pabalik-balik o paulit-ulit na ginagawa. So next, we have listen intently. So minsan akala natin ang pagiging isang mahusay na communicator ay nakabase sa husay ng pananalita. And that's a big no, because the key to be a good communicator is if you are listen intently to other person, especially to your teachers. So kailangan as a supervisor ay pakinggan muna ang lahat ng sinasabi ng mga teachers mo, using your ear, get a sense of what they are feeling, get a sense of what they are really trying to express, in order for them to feel that you are always there bilang kanilang supervisor. Next, we have be brief and to the point. So ito parang nabanggit ko na rin naman siya kanina doon sa concise and punctual. So direct to the point na lang palagi para mas malinaw ang instruction. So next po, we have meron akong nakalimutan. Communicate face-to-face as often as possible. So yes, as a supervisor, mahalaga na palaging sa school nagkakaroon ng harapan na pag-uusap, ng meeting. Kasi sa ganitong paraan, mas magiging malinaw ang ang usapan. It's very important sa school namin kasi halos regular kami na nagkakaroon ng staff meeting, depende doon sa mancom na ina-attenda ng aming school head. So, next po. Never lie. So, never lie. So yun, if you don't know the answer to something, you don't know, that you get back to the person with an answer. So yun, isa sa pinakamahalagang role ng supervisor is, syempre, wala naman kasing dahilan para magsabi ng hindi totoo sa mga teachers mo po. So, kailangan palagi na reliable palagi ang informations na magbumula sa iyo, and of course do a good job. It sounds so simple, but 90% of the 90% of a good public relations is simply doing a good job to be a better communicator. So the question is your supervisor an effective communicator? So ano po kaya as a teacher, ano po? So in every organizations, supervisor require the essential effective communication skills and internal confidence to motivate their employees, directing them to accomplish individual tasks and school goals or company goals. That is the supervision and supervisor essentials. Next po, ma'am. So yan, the importance of supervisor as a communicator. The school principal is the chief administrator responsible for the overall management of the school community that includes staff, students, and the parents. Communication is very essential to the job because it's ensure that everyone understands the school's mission and their role in it. Next po, ma'am. So last, role and responsibilities. We are here decision maker. Decision maker, they must make decision about the programs, materials, and the school facilities. The supervisory process requires continuous decision making, involves working with teachers, parents, students, and other administrations rather, to determine what is the best for all involved. So leaders must know themselves, know why they choose particularly paths, know whom to involve, and know which particular decision-making model to use. So today, researchers and so ngayon kasi as a supervisor, dahil nga nasa ganitong sitwasyon tayo, nakaranas tayo ng pandemic, isa ito sa napakahalagang role ni supervisor. Next po, ma'am. So we have identify the problem. So yun naman po yung palagi nating kailangan, kahit tayo mga teachers, bago tayo mag-decision, kailangan inaalam muna natin na what is the root cause of the problem. And of course, after nating malaman ano ba yung root cause of the problem, kailangan natin itong i-analyze. As a supervisor, as a teacher, mahirap na nagpapadalos-dalos tayo ng pagdedesisyon. So they should identify the problem first. So tingnan natin yung bawat anggulo ng isang isapin, issues, concern, project, or activities ng isang school or ng isang institution. So through this, makakabuo tayo ng isang angkop na solutions. So, and also the role of the decision maker is approver and implementer. Next one. So, ito yung tips ko lang to improve productive by making better decisions. So, ito usually ginagawa nung school head namin sa school, nung school head namin. So, what's urgent and important to do first? What's important but not urgent, schedule na lang. What's urgent but less important, delegate to others. And what's neither urgent nor important, don't do at all. Next po. And that's it po. Thank you for listening. So for the next reporter, may I call on Ma'am Azel? So the floor is yours, ma'am.
Yes po, Ma'am Emma. Thank you very much. So, Ma'am Aliyah, would you be so kind to please share my screen po? So, good morning, everyone. I am the last reporter for the group 3. And Ma'am Aliyah will share my screen. Thank you. Good morning po, Doc.
Okay na po, ma'am. Screen sharing na po.
Ayan, okay na po, Ma'am Aliyah. Parang late po ata sa akin.
Yes, ma'am. I didn't, stop sharing.
Okay, so thank you very much po. So I will be using my na lang. Ayan. So again, good morning, classmates. Good morning, Doc. So this is, so I am the last reporter for this morning regarding with the topic duties and responsibilities of instructional supervisors along improving teachers' effectiveness and professional growth and development. So I am Ma'am Hazel Angunida Estera, a teacher of a junior high school and senior high school English subject. Ayan. Okay. So next slide po, ma'am. So before we start, let us find out the key terminologies that we have in my presentation and along with our topic. So first, let us define the duties and responsibilities. So what is the difference between these two? So according to the reference that I have cited, duty is a moral commitment to something or someone. Whereas when we say responsibility, it is a condition of doing your duties responsibly or a condition of being a responsible individual. So in case of study, the person will be involved in activity without any self-interest. That is in terms of duty. And when it comes to responsibility, a person is solely responsible for the entire task and its outcomes. Nakabahan po ako. Okay, next. So instructional supervision, it is very evident that we have several definitions of instructional supervision, but the definition here is regarding on the improvement of teachers' effectiveness and professional development. So with that, instructional supervision is the work of ensuring the implementation of the educational mission of a school by overseeing, equipping, and empowering teachers to provide meaningful learning experiences for the students. Next, teachers' effectiveness. So generally, when we say a teacher is an effective one or an efficient one, he or she is able to plan carefully, use appropriate materials, communicate goals to students, maintain a brisk pace, assess student work regularly, and use a variety of teaching strategies. So they also use class time well and have coherent strategies for instruction. They hold the expectations that their students can learn and believe that they have a large responsibility to help. So that was according to Cohen et al. 2003. And another is that the professional growth and development. So when we say professional growth and development, teachers has their capability to continue education, to continuing education effort for educators. So it gives them a way or to the teachers to improve their skills and in return to help or to boost the students' outcomes. Okay. And then, sabi ko nga po, I am focusing on the new normal educational system and what are those duties and responsibilities. So, the new normal education in its own context, it leads us to sustain and provide quality education despite the lockdowns and community quarantines. So the new normal should be taken into consideration in the planning and implementation of the new normal educational system. Okay. So this is the subtopic that we have chosen regarding the topic that is assigned to us. So instructional supervision amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. So I have here. So as for the introduction, we all know that coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic has brought life to a standstill across the world, with nearly 178 countries reporting school closures. It has also shown us how important teachers are and how they can succeed even during a crisis with the right knowledge, abilities, and the support system. And in that case, doon po papasok yung support system natin. Okay? So, this topic of mine will be focusing on on strengthening the knowledge and informations given by my group members and co-reporters. So this has also the objective to give emphasis and evidences on the duties and responsibilities of instructional supervision along with teachers, effectiveness, and professional growth and development amidst the pandemic. So, nag-cite po ako ng mga evidences coming from foreign and the Philippine educational setting. Yan. So, to start with po, so I have here the first one, the first evidence. So, according to the new World Bank note, it outlines 3 key principles to strengthen teacher effectiveness during and in the immediate aftermath of the pandemic, as well as the opportunities for long-run improvement. So the first principle is that instructional supervisor source needs to support the teacher's resilience to ensure teacher effectiveness. So how? So school systems must protect the teachers' jobs and salaries so that there is a motivated workforce ready to get students back to speed when schools reopen. Ayan. So dapat daw po i-prepare ng school system yung mga teachers natin amidst the pandemic kasi especially us, like us, we are not secured. We are working in the private schools. Okay? So yung mga compensations po namin, our salaries are very much not like on the public schools. Kumbaga, the school system with the instructional supervisor, kailangan bigyan nila ng pansin yun. So how can we become an effective teacher even though ganun lang yung natatanggap namin financially? But then, sabi nga, if you have your mission, teaching is a vocation, so disregarded po yun. But then, kailangan i-motivate ng mga instructional supervisors. And then second, support teachers instructionally. Yan. To achieve the teacher's effectiveness. So how? So during this pandemic, teachers must be equipped to assess the students once they return to school. So they can identify what the content and skills have been lost and need for rebuilding. Kasi we all know that we are only using mostly majority ng ating educational system is now using modular. So mas marami yung modular. So as teachers, we do not know how effective yung learning na nagigain ng mga bata. Okay? So that's why sabi nga po ni Ma'am Emma, so sabi niya as their instructional supervisor, as their principal, yung bago nila pong principal has implemented a new policy wherein they are not obliged to do the printing. So they are going to focus on the strategies that they are going to give on the learners. Okay? So in that way, andun nagpapakita, evident po yung support ng instructional supervisor doon when it comes to instructions. Okay? And then lastly, we have the instructional supervisors support teachers technologically. So this is evident when a school or when a school system is using an online learning modality. Okay, so how? So countries and school systems that have weathered COVID-19 more successfully have also ensured their teachers have access to technology. So, napaka-fortunate if that particular school system has the capability to provide the technological devices, the internet. Kailan po in the Philippines, this is very much impossible. But, let us think of it positively. Mayroong mga iba't ibang localities that they have provided like laptops, something like that, yung mga broadband, Wi-Fi, na ibinibigay, in order to support technological aspects. And then another thing is that not on the materials, pwede rin yung sa mga trainings, how they create an effective PowerPoint presentation, or how they create a video of the lesson itself, sa YouTube, makikita natin, iba't ibang regions, they have their own uploaded lessons. Si teacher mismo, nagle-lesson online, so sa YouTube. Isa rin po yun, as an evidence na ang mga instructional supervisors need to support our teachers in terms of technological advances. Next po. Next naman. Ayan. So another study shown that this specific 6 questions arise. Okay, so it is about the instructional supervisors, okay, how they respond during the COVID-19 crisis. Okay, so first is how do we support teachers in the transition from face-to-face to virtual classes and meetings? How do we focus on addressing the needs of teachers while engaged in remote or online learning? Third, how do we maintain communication, contact, and relationship with teachers? And then how do we celebrate successes as teachers work with students in the virtual world? And how do we assess the quality of teaching and learning process? And lastly, how do we plan for the next steps? So specifically, meron po siyang kanya-kanyang duties. Ano ba yung mga bagay na pwedeng gawin ng mga instructional supervisors to address these 6 questions? Next slide po. Okay, so instructional supervision as described by Bitch and Reinhart's 2000. It is a complex process that involves working with teachers and other educators in a collegial, collaborative relationship to enhance the quality of teaching and learning within schools. So, supervision is contextual, and supervisors serve as a bridge that supports and sustains objectives. So for the teachers and students to be successful during the new normal system of education created by the COVID-19 pandemic, instructional supervisors needed to have the requisite skills, abilities, and mindset. So Reininger has suggested that supervision within a virtual context requires the same skills as supervision in person. So, based on my interpretation, ano po, so we can say na kapag ikaw ay instructional supervisor, hindi lang ikaw yung sabi niya ay utos ka ng utos, implement ng ganito, implement ng ganyan. So, you need to know ano po, kung ano ba yung mga bagay. Kumbaga ay magaling lang mag-utos kasi hindi siya yung gagawa. Ano? So, dapat yung mga ipinapatupad natin in our school, dapat alam din natin siya first hand. Ano? So, yung skills na yon ay dapat ay in person or nasa sa atin. Okay? Next, so for the teachers and students to be successful during the current times and the forthcoming challenge of normality, instructional supervisors need to have the skills, abilities, and mindsets. So holistically, dapat naka-anchored ito sa isang instructional supervisor. Ano po? So yung skills, yung abilities, and then the mindsets. So these skills, abilities, and mindsets are important regarding key broad decisions relative to teaching and learning. Kasi if mawawala yung isa, ano yung kumbaga sa learning objectives andyan yung KSA. So dapat when you are an instructional supervisor, lagi ding incorporated yung tatlong yan. The skills, the abilities, and then the mindset. Okay? So instructional leaders began working to develop systems to rebuild teacher capacity for delivering instruction remotely. So ito na yon, ano yung pag-establish ng iba't ibang learning model that will befit to the educational system right now. Okay? So yung remote learning at yung online learning. And those are the learning models that needs to be built by our instructional supervisors. Okay? So in the aspect of supporting teachers on the transition na tinatawag natin, it was opted into two phases. So ano ba yung dalawang transition na yon? So dito sa Philippine setting, Philippine educational setting natin, ito na nga po yung tinatawag nating distance learning wherein categorize siya into three. So online learning, modular learning, and hybrid learning. Or yung blended learning na tinatawag po. Ano po? Yan. So dalawang phase siya, to sum it up, online and modular. So how can we support them? Yan. So meeting the needs of teachers. So instructional supervisors categorize the supports needed as technological support, professional learning support, and instructional support. So campus leaders or the school principals work with instructional technology staff to provide technical support and with instructional supervisors and instructional coaches to design and provide professional learning and support. So when we are doing or modifying our learning modules, syempre nandyan yung ating mga master teachers, yung ating department heads. Okay, so upon checking, upon evaluating, before we give it to them to our teachers. So check nila yung ating mga weekly home learning plans. So yun, ano. So that is the role or the responsibility of the instructional supervisors. Okay, next, so technological support. So it was being discussed earlier, so providing the connectivity and bandwidth serve as a challenge to the instructional supervisors together with the school system. So that's why they are intended to provide that particular necessities to our teachers. And then when it comes to professional support, all teachers were required to complete introductory professional learning modules. More detailed modules were created at varying levels of proficiency. That's why there is the provided yung mga modules sa mga public schools coming from the higher ups, coming from the regional. So yun, in that case, that shows professional support. And then kapag papasok siya sa school-based context, so principals, the school heads, the master teachers, the department heads, they are the one, okay, assigned to do the modification, to apply contextualization. So instructional supervisors met with individual teachers to discuss their needs, strengths, and weaknesses, and collaboratively identified professional learning plans and supports to ensure successful delivery of remote instruction. So ito nga po yung sinasabi kanina ni Sir MJ. So acknowledge ko lang, ano sabi nga ay, it is not more or merely on spoon feeding. So this is a collaboration, meaning the teacher already has their own ideas, and then kapag kailangan i-strengthen or kailangan i-modify, magkaroon ng intervention, doon pumapasok yung role or your responsibility ni instructional supervisor. Okay po? Next, instructional support. So supervisors work in collaborative teams and teachers were able to divide work, utilize individual strengths, and establish consistency for students. So in this case, dito naman papasok yung topic that being discussed by Ma'am Aliyah, wherein one of the role of an instructional supervisor is to become an organizer. So there should be a collaborative team or collaborative work, okay, that is assigned individually. And syempre, dapat according siya doon sa interest, sa skills ng mga teachers. Okay? So instructional supervision was bolstered by this collaborative approach and provided invaluable support and prevented feelings of isolation. So in this particular thing, this is very much important, especially when the teachers are newbies. Ano po? So when we met a newbies as teachers sa ating school system, so yung feeling of belongingness, dapat it should came from our instructional supervisor first. Okay po? So i-acknowledge natin yung mga baguhang mga guro. Ano po? To avoid the feelings of isolation, especially in this time of pandemic. So syempre, hindi pa masyadong guided, hindi pa nila alam yung mga pasikot-sikot. So that is very much important nowadays. Next, maintaining communication, contact, and relationships. So monitoring was accomplished through individual check-ins, creating virtual connections, and maintaining frequent communication. So according to Ma'am Emmeline, as one of her report is supervisor as a communicator. So that is evident here. So instructional supervisors in terms of communication should make personal contact with every staff member through either a phone call or text message. Okay? So instructional supervisors should also divide the staff into groups and maintain individualized contact on a weekly basis. So that's why there are some GCs being created. So for example, like in our school, so we have GC from junior high school department, senior high school department, and then the school system, the whole system na ibang GC pa din. So kumbaga, there is individualized or divided yung dissemination of information. Mas magiging organized siya. Okay? And syempre, that is coming from the instruction of our principal. Then third, followed up with any teacher directly after the meeting if additional consultation was needed. So dito na rin papasok yung advisor, sa pagiging advisor ng ating instructional supervisors. So they're going to suggest what needs to be changed, what needs to be modified. So yan. So yung in that case, there will be misunderstanding. There will be no misunderstanding. Kapag able ka to communicate with your teacher face to face. So hindi yung, for example, mostly nangyayari to and it will cause negative things. So for example, the feedback o sa post conference ng isang based on my experience po ito So sa post conference after we have the demonstration, teaching demonstration, share ko lang po So our principal give his or her feedback doon sa department heads kasi we are not able to meet her because of the schedule of online classes. So isinulat and then mayroong oral. And then our department heads deliver it to us. So anong nangyari? Iba yung interpretation na sumama yung loob ng isang teacher. So mas maganda from the principal, so you have to give time for your teacher upon giving feedback, comments, and suggestions. So yun lang po. So this is very much important to be emphasized nowadays. Okay. Next is intentional efforts were made to maintain frequent communications to be sure that teachers were aware of and had clarity around the issues. So yun. So para din pong in terms of the students, di ba, upon giving or upon disseminating learning, okay, upon doing the teaching learning strategies, so dapat fit siya all. So walang malileft behind. So yun din po yung key responsibility ni instructional supervisor to inform, to give information individually, equally. Walang maiiwanan, walang hindi makakatanggap ng information in any aspect. Kung kahit tungkol saan man yan. Wag lang yung, syempre, that concerns the professional growth and development and then teachers' effectiveness. So yun. So kumbaga lahat ng mga bagay na makakapagpa-enhance sa atin bilang teachers, so dapat si principal or si school head responsible siya for that. Okay? Next. So upon celebrating success, so this is also connected as a motivator. So we need to celebrate the accomplishments and successes of both faculty and the students. So yung i-honor nyo yung mga achievements, yung mga nagawa ng mga teachers, and that is through the initiative of our instructional supervisors or our principals. Kasi bakit kailangan yon? Because usually nowadays nakaka-boost ng confidence, nakaka-inspired kapag na-honor. Hindi man siya publicly, hindi ka man bibigyan ng plaque, at least man lang coming from the word of your supervisor, napaka magandang motivation yun para sa atin as teachers. Okay? Next, maintaining quality instructional practices. So instructional supervisors and campus leaders sat in on collaborative team meetings and engage in conversations with teachers and to ensure consistency across content areas and grade levels. So there should be a collaborative meeting, a collaborative conferences, para hindi lang isa lang yung mayroong ideas. Kasi nga di ba sabi, two heads are better than one. So mas makaka-acquire ka ng learning, ng mga iba't ibang strategies through others. And that is with the initiative pa rin, ang magiging head nun is our instructional supervisor. Okay? So instructional supervisors, next po, and campus leaders work with teachers to support students who were struggling academically or becoming disengaged. So dapat as the school principals, we need to advise our teachers or our teachers nga po ano in the school system to focus din dun sa mga estudyante. Ano, so as an advisor. So tingnan natin saan ba yung flaws ng mga students mo. Baka nakakalimutan mo na yon because you are just doing modular learning. So makapagbigay ka lang ng modules, okay na. Maipasa si modules, okay na. So there should be a follow-ups para mas magiging maganda or maintained yung quality of education. So teachers, the counselors, and instructional leaders met virtually with individual students, small groups of students, and even families to help establish routines and provide individualized support. So this is evident in a school system wherein they have the consistent communication with the stakeholders, specifically sa mga parents. So even though we are on the distance learning, nagkakaroon pa rin tayo ng online meeting via Zoom. So sa school po, ganun kami. So we are not doing face-to-face meetings during the every quarter, yung quarterly report ng mga bata na ibibigay mo sa mga magulang. So nagkakaroon kami usually ay through online. Okay? So as an instructional advisor, dapat you as a principal, you need to advise always your teachers or the teachers in your school that you need to focus also on the students. Okay? I-boost natin, how can we encourage? So pinapaalalahanan ng mga instructional supervisors, yung mga teachers for doing that. Okay? Ayan. So another citation, okay? So from Wallace Foundation 2012, to suggest the 5 practices to help the principals improve teaching learning in their schools. So ano-ano ba yung makakatulong daw? Ano ba yung mga practices? So this is also an evidence for doing the duties and responsibilities of instructional supervisors. So first, shaping a vision of academic success for all students based on high standards. So as we are on DepEd or as we are on DepEd, dapat kung ano yung vision and mission ng Department of Education, lagi siyang nakalink or naka-connect or naka-integrate sa ating instructions. Okay? So creating a climate hospitable to education, to safety, a cooperative spirit, and other foundations of fruitful interaction prevail. Ayan, so creating a classroom, an environment for the teachers and for the students also, wherein they can find themselves more engaged. Yan, a climate hospitable to education. Third, cultivating leadership in others. So teachers and other adults assume their part in realizing the school vision. So laging naka-impart din yung ating pagiging leader, hindi lang sa ating mga teachers sa school, pati sa other stakeholders, okay, as a instructional supervisor. And then fourth, improving instruction to enable teachers to teach at their best and students to learn at their utmost. So yun, giving them or providing them some sort of seminars, trainings, like sabi nga po ni Ma'am Emma. So they are just they have just conducted the inset. So part yun, this is evident on the number 4 as the best practices. So number 5, managing people, data, and processes to foster school improvement. Okay? So yan. Okay. So yung pong mga nauna, they are the more on the foreign context. So nag-cite lang din po ako as an evidence. So for in the Philippine educational system and setting. Okay? So nag-cite po ako. Ito po yung nakita ko na connected. So bigyan ko lang po ng counting preview. So this is the DepEd Order number 24, series of 2020. So this is the national adoption and implementation of the Philippine Professional Standards for School Heads. Yan. So ito yung modified. Kumbaga aligned siya for this pandemic. Okay? So the new normal educational system. So these are the things, the characteristics, the practices that needs to be evident for the school heads as the instructional supervisors. And nag-focus po ako doon sa development of self or developing self and others. Kasi dito papasok yung teachers' effectiveness and professional growth and development. So under the fourth domain, which is developing self and others, so it recognizes the role of school heads in nurturing themselves and others. So this domain centers on the school heads' commitment in ensuring people and team effectiveness. So as we have been evaluated as a principal, dapat evident po itong domain na ito. Ano po? Particularly along improving the teachers. So in this domain, school heads are expected to reflect on their personal and professional development to enhance their practice in leading and developing people as they support their personal's professional development and welfare. So they should provide also others the means for development, such as opportunities to learn, reflect, lead, and progress in their profession. So that is focusing on the professional growth and development. So mayroon po siyang iba't ibang strands. So hindi ko na tingnan niyo lang po and those particular strands was divided into it comes into 7 strands. So personal and professional development, okay? So professional reflection and learning, professional networks, performance management, and professional development of school personnel, and the leadership development in individuals and teams, general welfare of human resources, rewards and recognition mechanism. So, bibigyan ko lang po ng kaunting preview. Yan. So when it comes to personal and professional development, so our instructional supervisor or the principal should conduct self-assessment of personal and professional development needs using this standard. Okay? Dapat evident siya, makikita siya dun sa mga actions ng isang instructional supervisor. Okay? Yan. So, they should model exemplary leadership practices within and beyond school context in critically evaluating practice, setting clearly defined targets for professional development. So kailangan our instructional supervisor mayroon siyang exemplary leadership. Yeah. So when it comes to professional networks, so lead in organizing professional networks to provide colleagues opportunities to maximize their potential and enhance their practice. Yan. So in terms of performance management, so the instructional supervisors should exhibit exemplary practice in the efficient and effective implementation of the performance management system to ensure career advancement for individual school personnel and to sustain improved office performance. And then fifth, professional development of school personnel. Dapat our school instructional supervisors should model exemplary practice in the implementation of professional development initiatives to enhance strengths and address performance gaps among school personnel. Okay. Number 6, leadership development in individuals and teams. So instructional supervisors should empower individuals and teams to consistently and effectively perform leadership roles and responsibilities in achieving school goals in shared governance and accountability. Yes. And then number 7, general welfare of human resources. So instructional supervisors or the principals should advocate the general welfare of school personnel by gaining support from the wider school community in strengthening the implementation of relevant local and national policies. And lastly, so we have the 8th strand, so rewards and recognition mechanism. So the principal or the instructional supervisor should institutionalize the implementation of the school reward system with support from the wider school community in recognizing and motivating learners, school personnel, and other stakeholders for sustained exemplary performance and or continued support. So yun po ang binubuo ng DO24, specifically ang emphasizing the 4th domain, which is connected with the teacher's effectiveness and professional growth and development. Okay, so to end my report, so I have my sentences here on my scratch paper. So nalimutan po ni Ma'am i-include diyan sa, nalimutan ko po personally i-include dun sa PowerPoint presentation, but then let me give it to you. So based on my sentences, so in all these tasks, strong school leadership will be the key. So the post-COVID-19 phase offer many opportunities to build back better. That is strengthen quality and equity in school systems. So every nation will need to denote the necessary and priorities, the necessities and priorities to achieve the goal of our educational system. So that's all for my report, and these are the references, okay, that I have cited. Okay, ito po yung mga resources na pinagkunan ko ng aking materials. So again, that's all po. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope that I have imparted some sort of informations and evidences that proves the duties and responsibilities of instructional supervisors. So thank you, classmates. Thank you, Pudok, and especially to my co-reporters. So that's all about the report of Group 3. Thank you. That's all, Pudok. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you also.
Doc, pwede na po ba akong mag-report?
Ay, sandali, ano. Hindi ko maano ito. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes po, Doc.
Can you hear me? Okay, so it's already 12:10. We have still one reporter. If you can stay for another 30 minutes, we will give her the chance to report. She will be discussing criterion reference instructional supervision. Si Miss Miniela Merillo.
Yes po,
Pwede ba?
Doc.
Pwede na?
Yes po. Ready po.
Let us ask the others.
Okay lang po, Doc. 11:10 lang po.
Okay. Okay.
11:10
But
lang.
before that, I would like to to ask the reporters a while ago about duties and responsibilities of instructional supervision along the areas of improving teacher effectiveness in professional growth and development. Now, I want you to be clear about teacher effectiveness. Now, when do we say that a teacher is effective, or what is an effective teacher? Now, an effective teacher are those who achieve the goals which they set for themselves and for their students. No? So, in other words, effective teachers must possess knowledge and skills needed to attain the goals and must be able to use that knowledge and skills appropriately. And if they are able to use this, then the possession of knowledge and skills falls under the heading teacher competence. So you are competent also, and through competence, through performance, with the accomplishment of the teacher performance, that is teacher effectiveness. Okay? And when you say teacher effectiveness, it always go with the assessed teacher effectiveness is assessed, in terms of development and learning of the students. Ang mga bata, in terms of the behavior and learning of their students, not on the behavior of the teachers. I'll repeat, teacher effectiveness must be defined, and can only be assessed in terms of behavioral and learning of their students. Yung estudyante ang magiging basihan, and not the behavior of the teacher in this regard. So it is worth noting that the individual's learning should be emphasized as the key policy objective. Yun. So yun ang magiging basihan, hindi yung supposing the skill of the teacher. If you can say that the teacher is skillful, but he cannot achieve her goals for the students, then he is not an effective teacher. And regarding effectiveness, now no teacher is effective in every aspect of their profession. Hindi lahat. We can say she is effective, for example, in teaching English, but in math, she cannot be an effective teacher. So we say that no teacher is effective in every aspect of their profession. For example, a teacher may be highly successful in teaching reading comprehension with her students, while struggling to teach the rudimentary problem solving in mathematics. So we cannot say that no teacher is effective in every aspect of their profession. Okay? So thank you very much for those who reported. You had a very lengthy discussion, but very meaningful and very clear discussion of the topics. Thank you, Aliyah, and to the rest of the members of the reporters. So we now go
Thank you
to
rin po, Doc.
Thank you. And we go now to Miss Miniela Merillo.
Copy that, Doc.
Okay.
Sir Chris, pwede po ba akong mag-share?
The floor is now yours, Miss Merillo. Good luck.
Okay, good morning, Doc Ching. Good morning, classmates. I am Minyala Angeline Murillo, and I will be the one to report about criterion reference instructional supervision. So first, I will report 4 important aspects of the criterion reference instructional supervision. First, we will define what criterion reference instructional supervision is. Next, we will identify its function to both the teachers and the supervisors. Then, I will show you a sample checklist format of a criterion reference instructional supervision with a few samples of specific indicators to describe the teacher's performance. And lastly, we will take a glimpse of the importance of using criterion reference instructional supervision strategy. Now, let us define the criterion reference instructional supervision. On the basis of being an assessment tool, criterion's reference is categorized into two. So I have here category 1, criterion's reference tools as a test and as a framework. But now, let us first define it as a test. Criterion reference tool as a test is a standardized test. When we say that it is a standardized test, it is any test in which the same test is given in the same manner to all test takers. And also, it measures an individual's performance against a set of predetermined criteria or performance standards. It is also a description of what an individual is expected to know or be able to do at a specific stage of development or level of education. So those are the description of criterion reference tool as a test. Now let's move on to the criterion reference tool as a framework. So as a framework, it was developed by Robert Major. It is a comprehensive set of methods for the design and delivery of training programs. It includes goal or task analysis, in which this is to identify what needs or what are the needs to be learned. Next, the performance objectives. It also involves performance objectives, in which it is the exact specification of the outcomes to be accomplished and how they are evaluated. Next, we have the criterion reference testing. So it is, as mentioned earlier, it is used to measure the performance. And lastly, the framework is designed for the development of learning modules. So that's all about the criterion reference as a tool. Now, let's emerge the concept of these two mechanisms as a process. And when we talk about that being a process, we will incorporate it to supervision as a strategy. So how do we define CRIS? So that is Criterion Reference Instructional Supervision Strategy. So according to that, it is an alternative to inspection. Pag sinabi po nating inspection, you are examining an event or activity, whether there are faults or errors seen in the duration. So meaning to say, it is far different from supervision, because unlike supervision, you are included in the duration or in the process. While in inspection, you just examine it and then you look for the faults or the errors in the process. Next, it is also an alternative to coercion. So pag sinabi po natin coercion, you are forcing to follow an order by threats or punishment. Meaning to say, meron pong punishment if ever you didn't accomplish that particular command by a person. So that is coercion. And also, it is an alternative to prescription type of supervision. So pag sinabi po nating prescription type of supervision, it is directing to provide a remedy. So parang nagbigay lang po kayo ng resibo kung ano yung dapat igamot po nila dun sa sakit nila, but there is no recommendation on how to rectify these faults and errors. Kumbaga, you don't belong. Hindi mo po binigyan ng klarong plano kung paano nila gagamutin yung mga faults in instruction. So, meaning to say, that's why it is an alternative, means we should use CRIS instead of these three. And also, CRIS is based on the assumption that the prime reason why a teacher is in the classroom is to affect desirable changes in the learners. So those are the descriptions that we have for this topic. Now, let's move on to its functions. Now, how does Chris assist the supervision? We all know that the person involved in supervision are the teachers and the supervisors. Or so example po dyan yung mga department heads or the principals. Now, let's identify the function for teachers. It helps teachers grow in self-direction in a way that they take the initiative to identify their own learning needs. So as a teacher, if ever that you were observed by the department heads, the principal, by using the Chris, malalaman mo po kung ano yung mga learning needs na kailangan mong i-rectify. Next, since we already recognize those needs, it will lead to self-confidence of the teachers. Then, once they improve their own learning needs, it will make them grow and be matured in this profession. So that leads to professional maturity. Now, papaano naman po natutulungan ng ating CRIS or the Criterion Reference Instructional Supervision Strategy yung ating supervisors? Now, it helps them to inform teacher strengths and weaknesses. And also, it guides teachers to improve on what they lack up. So as supervisors, you need to be involved in your subordinates. That's why you there is an alternative po pagdating dun sa tinatawag na prescriptive or prescription type of supervision. Hindi ka lang po basta magbibigay noong resibo na dapat nilang bilhin if ever that they have to remedy or rectify those flaws and errors, but also you need to help them grow. So that those are the functions of CRIS when it comes to our teachers and to our supervisors. Now I have here some samples po of the CRIS. So, ito po yung picture niya, pero inisa-isa ko po siya in this presentation. So, these are the possible items for checklist forms. The first one is the instructor organization. So, out of that, the items included are the instructor states the relation of the class to the previous one. Next, the instructor knows how to use the educational technology needed for the class. The instructor posts class goals or objectives on the board or slide. The instructor gives specific instructional outcomes for the course. Next, the instructor provides an outline of the organization of the class. And also we have the instructor conveys the purpose of each class activity. So bilang isang supervisor, whether it be a principal or a department head, ito po yung mga tinitingnan nila doon sa mga teacher if ever they are on the part of the instructor organization. So sample lang po yan. Next, we have another aspect na titingnan po sa inyo. If you are being observed as teacher, those are the instructional materials. So ano po yung nakapaloob doon? If used, videos, websites, and other resource materials have a clear purpose. Next, handouts or digital resource are appropriate in number and subject. Next, we have the instructor gives assistance or insight into reading or using assigned text. So those are the items po included in instructional materials. Next, aspect po are the instructional strategies. Ano po yung ginamit ng mga teachers na strategies as they are being observed? The instructor's choice of teaching techniques is appropriate for the goals. During discussion, the instructor pauses after asking questions. Next, the instructor acknowledges student contributions to discussion, helping students extend their responses. Next, the instructor keeps discussion on track or facilitates small group discussion. Next, the instructor mediates conflict or differences of opinion and encourages students to do the same. And lastly, the instructor demonstrates active learning techniques. So those are the items or the criteria for instructional strategies. Now let's have the content knowledge. So it is the key for a teacher to have mastery of the content. Doon po sa kanyang tinuturo, dapat alam po niya yung pasikot-sikot nun. So as supervisor, ano po yung aalamin natin or ano yung mga criteria na dapat nating tingnan do sa teacher as they teach inside the classroom? First, the instructor's statements are accurate according to the standards of the field. Next, the instructor incorporates current research in the field. Third, the instructor identifies sources, perspectives, and authorities in the field. Next, the instructor communicates the reasoning process behind operations or concepts. And lastly, the instructor correct bias and assigned materials. So those are the criteria for the measurement of the content knowledge of the teacher. Now, ito naman po ay when it comes to the delivery, the clarity of the lesson. The instructor defines new terms and concepts. Next, we have the instructor elaborates or repeats complex information. Third one, the instructor uses a variety of examples to explain content. Fourth, the instructor makes explicit statements in order to draw student attention to certain ideas. And lastly, the instructor pauses during explanations to allow students to ask questions. Next aspect po na nandoon sa ating checklist form is the presentation itself. First, the instructor can be seen and heard. Next, the instructor avoids extended reading from notes or text. Third, the instructor varies lecturing with active learning techniques. Next, we have the instructor speaks at a pace that allows students to comprehend what is said. Next, the instructor uses appropriate examples, metaphors, and analogies. Next, the instructor uses humor appropriately. And lastly, the instructor is enthusiastic about the subject matter. Next aspect po, instruction in laboratories, studios, or field setting. If ever po na gumamit yung teacher ng mga nabanggit. Experiments, exercises are well chosen and well organized. Procedures, techniques are clearly explained or demonstrated. Next, the instructor is thoroughly familiar with experiments or exercises. Fourth, the instructor is thoroughly familiar with equipment or tools used. Fifth, assistance is always available during experiments and exercises. And lastly, experiments or exercises are important supplements to the course. Next, we have the rapport with responsiveness to students. The instructor addresses students by name as possible. Next, delivery is based to student needs. The third one is that instructor provides feedback at given intervals. Fourth, the instructor uses positive reinforcement. Fifth, the instructor incorporates student ideas into the class. And the last one, the instructor encourages students to build on each other's comments and ideas. Now, the impact on learning. So kung makikita nyo po or maoobserbahan nyo, halos lahat po ng aspect talaga tinitingnan sa isang teacher if ever they are being observed by their department heads, their principals, and so forth. So for the impact on learning, the instructor helps develop critical thinking skills, and problem-solving ability. Next, the instructor broadens student views. The third one, the instructor encourages the development of students' analytic ability. Fourth, the instructor fosters respect for diverse points of view. Next, the instructor helps students develop awareness of the process used to gain new knowledge. And lastly, the instructor stimulates independent thinking. So, as for the creating an inclusive classroom, ito naman po yung mga items. So, it is important for teachers to create inclusive classroom. The first one, instructor creates an equitable and inclusive classroom that respects gender differences, diverse ethno-cultural and faith communities, family structure, student abilities or needs, and differences in socio-economic status. Next, instructor conveys the belief that all students can learn and succeed. So those are the aspects po na talagang inoobserbahan sa mga teachers when they are being observed. That's why during post-conference po, talagang makikita ng teachers saan ba akong part nagkulang. And they will lead to recognize their own learning goals or learning needs para po ma-improve nila in the future. So what is the importance of Chris in terms of the supervision po? So at first, this is the first importance. I have summarized the importance of Chris in supervision. So those are 4. First, it provides assistance for teachers to recognize their own learning needs. So sabi ko nga po kanina, sa dami po nung binanggit ko, hindi pa po lahat sinama ko doon, talagang makikita po ng teacher kung saan po siyang part specifically nagkaroon ng problema, nagkaroon ng error, or na-miss niya yung part na yon. Next, or second, it creates transparency on the part of the supervisor as he or she informs his or her subordinates about their instructional skills and competency. So nagkakaroon po ng communication between the teacher and the supervisor kung ano po yung dapat nilang i-improve para sa mga susunod na klase niya, di kaya na po ninyang incorporate those skills and competency na na-miss po niya. Third, it leads teacher for improvement after being recognized their weaknesses in instruction and facilitating learning. So sabi nga po kanina ni Doc Ching, the primary goal of teachers for you to become an effective teacher, dapat po yung ating mga estudyante, they are able to learn from you. Na-achieve po nila yung tinatawag nating learning outcomes. So that is why you need to recognize those learning needs and to be and to improve. Next, or lastly, both teachers and supervisors are able to check their progress as a mover of education process. So both the teachers and the supervisors, sila po yung talagang nagtutulungan para po they are able to call themselves effective. Kasi nga sabi natin kanina, magre-reflect yung effectiveness natin as a teacher or as a supervisor if those learners are able to achieve the goals na isinet po natin sa kanila. So those are the aspects of my report po. Now I will give you this end statement. In life, what really matters is not the position you hold, but the service you do for others, whether you are a leader or a mere follower. So I hope this quotation po ay maisa sa buhay po natin. Thank you. Napakaikli po ng report ko at I hope po ay naunawaan po ng lahat. Thank you po, Doc, and thank you po, classmates.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Ms. Miniela. Your report is short but very meaningful,
Okay.
about criterion reference instructional supervision. Now, you know that the primary purpose of instructional supervision is to improve the quality of education, diba? For improvement. And
Yes,
through
po.
the improvement, and we could get to quality education if it is if the teacher are effective, kung effective ang teachers. And in making instructional decision, there are two important decisions that a teacher should do inside the classroom. One is curricular decision and one is instructional decision. So if the curricular decision and instructional decision is very clear to the teachers, then she could be effective because she could get what she wishes to achieve. And teacher effectiveness, on the other hand, depends largely on the quality of curricular and instructional decision, And for that primary reason, now the teacher should have to effect desirable changes in the learners. Dapat ay magkaroon ng pagbabago sa iyong eskwela. Kung hindi maalam siyang bumasa, ngayon pagkatapos mong maturuan, nakatuto siyang bumasa, then you are an effective teacher. But if not, you are not considered an effective teacher. So the primary reason a teacher is in the classroom is to effect desirable changes in the learners, And because the intended change in the learner can be considered the criterion. Kaya tinawag itong criterion reference instructional decision. The criterion is the change, that will be effected by an effective teacher. Okay? And the focus of Chris is not on what the teacher does, but on what happens to the learners as a consequence of what the teacher does. I'll repeat, the focus of criterion reference instructional supervision is on what the teacher does, is not on what the teacher does, but on what happens to the learners as a consequence of what the teacher does. Did you get it? So it is ends rather than means-oriented, ends-oriented, yun. And in this strategy is in line with two major trends in education in our country today, that is accountability movement and competence-based education program. Yun. Kaya ito ay maganda itong criterion reference instructional supervision. If you are observing teachers, you are going to have questions, for the teachers, but any matter that will appear, in the course of the discussion, in observing the teacher, it should be considered by the supervisor. We would like to discuss, the step-by-step processes of the criterion reference instructional supervision. Now, the first thing that is an instructional supervisor do, upon entering the classroom, is to observe the teacher. Di ba mag-o-observe ka pagpasok mo ng room, And the instructional supervisor, first thing to do is to look at her lesson plan. Siyempre, to find out what her objectives are, Then after that, there are suggested questions, in conducting the conference. Mayroon yung conference muna, And after the conference, you allow the teachers to demonstrate the lesson, And the instructional supervisor, after the demonstration lesson, will ask, the supervisor will ask the teachers about question regarding the lesson that she delivered during the demonstration. And the first thing that you should ask the teacher is this, like for example, like the example, how do you evaluate the lesson that you had? Ang mag-i-evaluate nung kanyang pagtuturo ay yung teacher. How do you evaluate the lesson you had? Were you able to realize your objective? Tatanungin mo siya, kung na-realize ba niya yung kanyang objective. It is not the supervisor who will just write on the observation notes that whether the teacher had attained the objective or not, but it is the teacher who will be asked, yan. And next, the instructional supervisor may ask like this: what factors contributed to the attainment of the objective? Tatanungin din niya yun, And what did that go well if the objectives were not realized? And number 3, in what part of the lesson did you and your pupils experience some sort of difficulty? And how did you come out of this difficult situation? Number 4, were the undesirable results produced by the various interaction that took place? How this was brought about? What may be done to avoid it? And number 5, if you were to teach the same lesson again, would you use the same materials and strategies? What alternative will you employ? Yun mga ganun ang tanong, And you are not going to rate the teacher. It is the teacher who will rate, Supposing, for example, if you would be evaluating your demonstration lesson, how would you rate yourself? For example, you give them 1 to 10. Or what would be your rating? Is it 10, 9, 8, 7, and up to 1? So the teachers are given chances to realize what had taken place during the demonstration that she had. It is not the supervisor who will give the rating. And it is through questioning that the observer will be able to help the teacher. Yun. And so after this, the recommendations would be written in the observation notes of the teacher. Saka magsusulat yung observer, So that is how the instructional supervision is being done. Yun ang pagkakaiba sa ngayon, Ang mga supervisor, mga principal ay masyadong hinahanapan lahat ng butas, hinahanapan ng hindi maganda ang isang teacher. But this is a nice observation framework. Okay? So I hope you understood the criterion reference observation, so that when you become supervisors or school heads, you would be using this, and I think your teachers will appreciate this. Okay? So let us end this session for this afternoon. May mga tanong ba?
Doc, excuse me po. Doc, si Ma'am Cores po, hindi po siya nakapag-report. Opo. Pero po, okay lang po ba, Doc, na magbigay na lang po siya ng pre-recorded report po sa inyo?
Okay.
Hindi na po kaya. Okay lang po.
Oo.
Ngayon na po? Or...
Meron pa naman 15 minutes. 15 minutes lang.
Okay po. Sige po. Ma'am Cores, nandito na po ba kayo? Ready po kayo?
Nandito na po ako, sir. Ito po, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Hold on. Ma'am Cores, ito na po.
Opo, sir.
Go ahead po, ma'am.
Opo, sir. So, good morning po, Doc Ching, and to my fellow teachers. Thank you na nabigyan po uli ako ng second chance kasi mahina po talaga yung signal dito sa Leyte. So, I am tasked to report on how are teachers affected by the learning community. Sir, naririnig po ba ako, sir?
Yes, we can hear you.
Apo. Okay, very good. So again, my topic is all about how are teachers affected by the learning community. So next slide po, sir. Okay, so the holistic approach to teaching and learning being transformed into a school of professional learning community has profound effects on the members of the school community. So based on the characteristics identified by Cruz et al. In 1995 and Ford in 1997, the community of learners movement recasts the roles, the rules and relationships that exist between and among teachers, the administrators, the students, and other community members. So these are the members of the learning community I'm mentioning. So according to Hasman and Goldring, page 45 in 2001, he says that sustaining and developing school communities requires a revisioning of roles and relationships for all constituencies. So, merong mga enhancement, merong mga modifications, merong mga revisions in the school system. So, the emerging picture of schools as learning communities reveals that the attributes of learning community schools have a significant influence on the daily work lives of teachers. So, this is being grouped into 5 categories, sir. Pwedeng maano, sir, yung next slide, sir. Okay na, sir. So, the first one is the teacher as colleagues. The second one is teachers as leaders. Number 3, teachers as learners. Number 4, teachers as pedagogies, and teacher-parent relationships for number 5. So for number 1, teachers as colleagues. So according to Roland Barthes, emphasize the importance of collegiality. So the nature of relationships among the adults within a school has a greater influence on the character and quality of the school, and the
Ayan po, Doc, yung medyo challenging. Nawala na naman po si Ma'am Cores. Na-disconnect na naman po siya. So, Doc, would it be okay po if she records her report and then submit it to you instead?
Yes.
Okay po. Sige, Doc. Inform ko na lang po siya, Doc.
Oo. Submit na lang.
Sige, Doc. Ano na po tayo? Move forward na po tayo.
Okay. So, her topic ay ano ba yung kanina pa yung isang yung topic?
Opo, sa learning community po.
Okay, learning community. So we are through with the professional learning community and the duties and responsibilities of instructional supervision. I have given you some insights, and learnings about this topic. So we will now end our session because I have classes at 1 o'clock. No, kakain pa ako. Okay, so we continue tomorrow with our midterm exam and discussion of next order with DepEd order 5274 and number 16. Ano yon? Madali lang naman ito. And after that, you will have your midterm exam, essay. Your exam would be essay. Okay? So that's all. Thank you for all the reporters this morning. You have done your job well. Okay, let us continue tomorrow.
Salamat din po, Doc. Salamat
Thank you
po.
so much,
Thank you po,
Doc.
Doc.
Thank you, classmates.
Have a great day po. See you tomorrow.
Okay,
Tomorrow. See you
Good
tomorrow.
luck po sa atin.
okay.
Thank you po, Sir Chris.